Fish Stripes Live after Game 7 of the Marlins season. Join us, please. Join us. With Alex Carver here, Mr. Fish on the Farm, breaking down the 3-2 walk-off hit by pitch loss. A walk-off hit by pitch from Michael Conforto. And a blown save for Anthony Bass before that. And before that, some good stuff. Some very good stuff from this game, I'd say. And, I mean, the main storyline that we were most excited for entering this one was Nick Neidert, and he delivered as a positive. And the fact that the offense showed some signs of life right there in the middle innings, that was a positive, especially let's just see what our commenters had. Oh, and we got Ethan joining us as well. So Eli Sussman, Alex Carver, and Ethan Badowski.
You can't make that one up, boys.
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah.
I mean, the way that this season started and then you lose a game like that, that's tough. You have the lead going into the ninth. Bass obviously was a terrible pitch to McNeil to give up that home run in a 3-1 count, and then you lose like that. Morale's got to be at a pretty low, and I'm sure we're going to hear it from Donnie.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely interested to see what Donnie has to say. And the fact of the matter is that's a brutal way to lose a ball game. Obviously, but the Marlins are never in that situation if Anthony Bass doesn't give up a 7,000-foot home run to Jeff McNeil. So, we can get mad about the hit by pitch, and I'm sure we will. And the Marlins certainly, that's a bad break and a really tough call. But yeah, there are a lot of other things that you can get mad about besides just the fact that Conforto leaned into that pitch. Yeah, you got screwed. And with the way that the season has been going so far, it feels a lot worse. This would feel terrible if you're, 7 or what are we, 1-6? It would feel terrible if you're 6-1. It feels a lot worse when you're 1-6. But what are you gonna do? It really is just I tweeted this out. You got to just hope this is rock bottom, because I don't know how it can get any worse than losing like that. I mean, the bullpen was pretty great up until Bass, and that's now a huge issue that the Marlins really need to consider. Going 0 for 2 when you're the big signing of the offseason, in terms of the bullpen, going 0 for 2 to start is as bad as it can get. So, yeah, brutal. Just a brutal one. There's not much else to say. I mean, I was going to come on in a big positive mood. I thought there was a lot of really good things about this ball game, and we can still get to them. But I'm sure everybody kind of wants to have their say on the end of that game. But again, if we're not in that situation, if that bomb doesn't happen, and McNeil earned that bat flip every enjoyable second of it for sure.
And I mean, he'd been struggling, and I remember even games last year where McNeil against the Marlins, for whatever reason, he's had his big struggles, and I'm sure that felt great for him to break out of that. I mean, drop to number 7 in the lineup. The reason why on paper you felt a little bit hopeful about Bass coming into that game is because he didn't have to go through the meat of the Mets order the way it lined up. He was going through technically the bottom of their order, and you thought that he could get through it. This is something that I don't think I put it out there, but it's just been crazy to me how this bullpen has gone. I mean, you were right in that for the most part, everybody else that they relied on, the whole pitching staff in this game was very impressive. From Neidert, and we're going to spend some time on Neidert, but from Neidert, even Detweiler, he scared us initially.
Was great. Yeah, I thought he was great.
Especially that second inning. He was in line for the win, I jokingly said, and then he was really impressive. The fact that was an easy decision to second guess, doing a double switch and knowing that he was going to be
I'll
in
be back in a second, boys.
Yeah, Don Mattingly speaking right now, post game. So Ethan's going to check in on that, and just I mean that was a really well pitched game, and I guess now that it's just me and Alex, we should probably touch on Neidert and what we saw from him. This was his first major league start. It was his 5th appearance overall. Former Marlins minor league pitcher of the year, someone that we expected to stick in this rotation as early as 2019 and got hurt. Perhaps there was going to be an opportunity for him in 2020 after the COVID outbreak, but unfortunately he was caught up in that outbreak and wasn't the same when he got back. And in this is, I think the context is very important here. This is probably the best lineup that any Marlins pitcher has faced so far this season in the Mets. I mean, compared to the Rays and the Cardinals not having the same kind of depth, this was a tough challenge. That this team got in on overnight, past midnight, a quick turnaround for them, that there were a lot of things working against Neidert, and he stepped up. I mean, it wasn't pretty all the time. 5 walks, very uncharacteristic, but your general takeaways of what we saw from him and what we can expect from him going forward, because he definitely earned himself another start or two. He's going to be a big part of them moving forward, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't think he was his best. That's definitely not the best that you're going to see Nick Neidert throw. It worked out. He had kind of bend but don't break stuff today. Changeup was, I think, pretty good. You like that he's throwing hard. He's up to 94. I think he touched 95. That's a product of what he did in the offseason with his mechanics, which was really good. Everything you saw from him in spring training was very good. I don't think you saw all of that on display today. Definitely the jitters. Obviously, in that first inning, I think he was overthrowing. I put that on Twitter. A lot of balls up outside of the strike zone, especially high. I think he was overthrowing a little bit in that first inning of work. Settled into it nice. Did allow a bunch of base runners. Wasn't perfect at all, but he got the outs when he needed them. He was able to roll a big double play. So, yeah, I mean, you like the fact that he was able to get back within himself after that first inning, where I do think he was overthrowing, and kind of come back a little bit. And he got into the 5th inning and got it to the bullpen. So that's what you wanted. He did his job, and I think he only gets better from here. So I think really good from Nick.
Someone that I guess the biggest surprise individually is that he touched 95 a couple times, technically 94.5. He rounded up a little bit, but either way, he's someone that, unlike a lot of these other Marlins pitchers, he's not someone that has that overwhelming velo that he needs to rely normally on his command. And in this one, he found another way to do it. Even then, he didn't know exactly where his pitches were going. From the very beginning of the game, he mixed in all his pitches, and he avoided the middle of the plate at least. So he was able to avoid almost entirely. He was able to avoid hard contact. So even when the balls were put in play, his defense was able to get to it as well. And he still has that great flow going. He certainly has to keep it now, if it worked for him pretty well this first time out. And the trend that he started with the rest of the guys at the alternate training site, they mentioned that, how they grew out their mustaches, kind of following in his footsteps. He mentioned that on the Marlins podcast earlier today. So a nice first step from him. And just very frustrating at the very end. All people want to talk about, of course, is the end of that. And,
there's so much good before that. I mean, obviously, that's what the hot topic's going to be. That's all Donnie has talked about so far in this press conference. I'm just overhearing it. I'm going to get the quotes from Ethan and I guess Daniel. But yeah, I mean, a lot of good things to like before that happens. Before that 9th inning, really, I think it was a good game for the Marlins. You see John Birdie. I want to mention him. You just see this guy continuing to get on base. I mean, I know there was a comment on Twitter not too long ago that the infatuation with John Birdie is overblown. And I can't disagree with that more. I even quote tweeted that. I think it was a response to you, Eli. I don't know who it was. I'm not going to call him out by name, but I totally disagree with that. This guy is just a solid little player, and he just continues to get on base. And if he doesn't get on base in that inning, we don't score a run. So,
and this one to right field player, toward the corner, going to get down. Birdie on his way to third.
Simple hitter and plays all over the field. So the best, I think probably the best super utility guy in baseball, or at least among them. So super solid player. Love it. And then Dickerson as well. This guy continues to hit. I know, he was a story in spring training that he was kind of scuffling a little. And he's what I think I had at one point he was 5 for his last 11 or something. So yeah, I mean, everything that the Marlins have gone through with offense not being great so far this year, those two guys have been good for the Marlins all year and continue to be. So yeah, nods to Birdie and Dickerson.
Yeah, that 6th inning was encouraging. Sorry, Danilo here, guys. It was encouraging to see the Marlins come back and will themselves into 2 runs, which Lord knows they need all the offense they can get. And I'm sure it's already been beat like a dead horse, but of all the ways to lose on some cheap stunt, leaning into the pitch, and then the umpires don't even bother to get it right, or whoever it was in C caucus didn't get the call right. It's just ridiculous. Anthony Bass, however good he was in spring training, it seems he's not as good or not as effective in the regular season. And I think the Marlins should start considering different options for someone to come and close the games. Because if you can't get 3 outs when your team needs you the most, then you shouldn't be pitching in crunch time.
And it's just a crazy contrast from last year. I mean, last year was, I guess, a career year for Bass. He only allowed 2 home runs in like 26 innings. And already he's matched that this year's first 3 appearances. And both home runs, not really cheap shots either. Like, I mean, you saw McNeil's reaction to his home run today. He knew it off the bat. And this is a guy that wasn't hitting the ball well at all for these first few games of the season. So for him to get into a groove on that, you just know was a mistake pitch, even though I think it was like 95 miles per hour. I mean, his velo seems to be normal his first few appearances. It's just that this is someone that the key to him last year was being able to induce all these grounders. And he, for whatever reason, he's not able to do that right now. Well, today, even when he got a couple grounders, one of them hit just so hard and it gets through the left side of the infield to set up those runners in scoring position. At the very end, they do get screwed at the end with that very final call, but there was 1 out in the inning. Even if he gets through Conforto, there's no guarantee he gets the final out. And that's making your own bed for you, where when you put those runners on base and when you give yourself no margin for error because you allow that home run, that you can't blame it all on the umpires. There's the circumstances that even made it possible for the Mets to win it on a bad umpiring decision like that. Is it's entirely on Bass, really.
You always hear that argument in sports, never leave the decision up to the officials, be it basketball, football, or baseball. You never let them decide the game. You have to come and perform your best. And to your point, there still was 1 out to get after he strikes out Michael Conforto. And the way that he's been pitching, he probably would have given up a hit. Who knows? It sucks to watch a Nick Neidert start that was kind of, and has been mentioned, wasn't his best performance. But when the Marlins needed a pitcher to step up, he stepped up. He provided them with 4 scoreless innings. His command wasn't there, but he did his job, and he turned it over to the pen. And unfortunately, 4 1/3 of 1-run baseball. And unfortunately, Anthony Bass just isn't able to hold things down. You jumpstart your offense with John Birdie, who, as was said, I definitely agree, he's perhaps one of the top 5 utility guys in baseball. He's super fun to watch. He's like that niche Miami guy that only Miami fans are really really enjoy watching. But if he were on a Yankees or Mets or Nationals or Braves, people would know more about him and would talk more about him. But it's tough when the Marlins were going to secure their 2nd win of the season. They end up losing on just a ridiculous call and a really cheap antic by Michael Conforto.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough to be in that position as an umpire too, because what the rule book says, and they just talked about it. If you guys are watching the post game, they just talked about it, that they once the ball hits him and it's called a hit by pitch, they can't do anything to go backwards. So if it's on anybody for ending that game the way that a baseball game should not be ended, it's Michael Conforto. He clearly was trying to get hit by that pitch for sure. You can't look at that replay and tell me that he didn't do that on purpose. So that's who it's on. The Mets can look at that and be proud of themselves that they won a game that way, but that's not a way a baseball game should end. And hopefully after this, maybe there'll be the Michael Conforto rule where that's not allowed, or at least reviewable, because that's just not in the competition of baseball, not in the spirit of competition of this game. And if you're a fan, I don't even care if you're a Mets fan, you don't want to see a game end that way. You want to see a big hit. Even a walk-off walk would be better than that. That's just not a way to end a baseball game. So, yeah, hopefully something comes out of this and they fix it, because that's just not in the spirit of competition of Major League Baseball.
I don't know.
And if I'm following this along correctly, Mattingly, as expected, not making a change at closer yet, still giving a benefit of the doubt to Bass, even though it's been now 2 out of the 3 really disastrous outings. And I mean, Yimi Garcia would presumably be the next man up, and he's someone that looked really good today with 3 different pitches that he was mixing and worked a very quick 8th inning. And Ethan, I'm sure we'll be back with us shortly. I mean, Ethan was someone that was really advocating for Yimi to be the closer coming out of spring training, kind of based on what he did last year. And we'll see how long that leash is with Bass, because once Mattingly historically is someone that really gives these guys a long leash before he doesn't like having a lack of continuity at that position. So, and now we have Ethan right back in with us.
I'm sorry. Didn't the Dodgers not re-sign Mattingly because of his inability to manage a bullpen? I might be misremembering that, but I'm pretty sure that was one of the reasons why they let him go, why they let him walk.
You could make the same complaint about what he's done during his Marlins years too. I mean, he's not foolproof in this practice. We're just anticipating what's going to happen, not saying what should or shouldn't. He's someone that has always been, pretty cookie cutter with the kind of roles that he puts these high leverage guys in, and like Suba, keep that hierarchy the same for as long as possible.
But I don't think that. Sorry, go ahead, Alex. So go ahead.
No, I mean, I was just going to say, I'm sure that, we're going to go into our next game, and if it's a safe situation and they bring in Anthony Bass, that every fan's going to be screaming that, what the heck, why is Anthony Bass still the closer? I mean, yes, as bad as he has been, and he was bad today, that home run pitch was awful. I put it on Twitter, the map of it. You can't throw that pitch there. I don't care if the hitter's struggling. It's a 3-1 pitch. You go middle in and you put it right in the guy's wheelhouse, and he wasn't going to miss that pitch. And I think he got every single bit of that ball, every stitch of it. And it's understandable. As a Major League Baseball pitcher in a high leverage situation, you can't throw that pitch there. So that's the problem. And like you said at the beginning, Eli, if that pitch doesn't happen, we're not talking about Ron Kolpa not making that, calling that a hit by pitch, or that ruling being what it was. We're not even there. So that's what you have to look at first, is that pitch, that singular pitch by Bass, and then the pitches before that got him in a 3-1 count, right? So just not good. But I don't think you can say we have to pull the plug. I think you kind of have to give him a little bit more time. Maybe if he comes out and he looks the same way in maybe 1 or 2 more games, then you make a move. But I think right now Bass is still a closer.
I mean, it's two blown saves. Good closers have 2 blown saves over the course of a year. Of course, it's the first 2, so it looks a lot worse. But every closer at one point in their career blows back-to-back saves, and it just happened to be the first 2, so it's going to look worse. Look, if this continues, if there's another one or maybe one more after that, then I'm sure Donnie's going to really reconsider pulling the plug. But it's his second outing. Of course, it looks worse because it's the first 2. But I don't necessarily think, just because Donnie is a guy that likes to stick with his roles in the bullpen, he always kind of has guys, he has a 7th inning guy, an 8th inning guy, and a 9th inning guy. I don't think that means that if it's clearly not working with Bass in the 9th inning, he's just going to keep going back to him, right? This is only the second, appearance save opportunity that Bass has had. Of course, it's 2 out of 7 games, and both have been blown so far, so it looks a lot worse. But give him some chances to work it out. If you just pull the plug on him, that's of course going to blow his confidence completely and probably set him up to not have any success in the 7th or 8th inning. But the fact of the matter is, it looks really bad right now, and there's nothing you can really do about it. I already liked Yimmy's style in the 9th inning better than I liked Bass's style in the 9th inning. I wrote about it way back in January when we signed Bass, and I reposted that article today. But it looks really bad right now, and Donnie's really frustrated. I just got back from his post-game press conference, and he's very frustrated. He has every right to be frustrated, and I'm sure that he's not only frustrated about the way that game ended, but he's frustrated about the fact that his closer that he brought, that the team brought in, has blown 2 saves so far. So I don't think that he's just going to ride with Bass all year if Bass is having success. Whenever Bass, really fizzles out, if it's 3, if it's 4, if it's 5, if it even gets that far, then I'm certain that Donnie will pull him. But if he doesn't, then that's when you start getting concerned. But it's 2 games. It happens to be the first 2. So again, it looks a lot worse. But you just hope that this is rock bottom for the Marlins, because this is such a bad loss, and things get so bad. But of course, everybody's going to be overreacting right now.
While I normally would agree with you, Ethan, I don't like being the overreactive personality of Bass doesn't have it. That's it. We lost our closer. The Marlins would have had a different record right now. We'd be 3-3, if I'm not mistaken. If anyone except Anthony Bass was there closing games. if they do their job.
I mean, you don't know that necessarily. I mean,
I know.
You can throw Detweiler out there, and Detweiler can give up the same bomb that he just did. You can throw Yimmy out there, and he can give up the same bomb that he just did. So you don't really know that another guy doesn't blow the same saves that Bass has blown already.
Yeah, I mean, something I brought up just a few days ago is that honestly, everybody in this bullpen, with the exception of like Dylan Floro, has had at least one bad moment for themselves.
Yeah, and Donnie just said that.
Bass has been the one that's been having them in the highest leverage situations when you can taste the win in two different instances, and then it's pulled away from you just like that. But yeah, this was something that's
going to get the attention. You're going to get that attention. Like,
of course, the closer's always going to get the attention.
And like before today, and I guess his last outing was okay, but before that, he had a terrible spring training, and he wasn't good in his first couple of appearances. So he kind of gets a little heat from those of us that pay attention a little bit more. But if he's in that closer spot, that's amplified, right? So the fact that Anthony Bass is coming out and he's struggling in his first two starts, and it sucks, yes, that he's costing the Marlins the lead and giving up games. And yes, you don't want to have that long term in your closer spot, and the Marlins won't. But, before you make a move, you kind of got to put things back in perspective and say, okay, you know what? It's 2 games. This game, everything being what it was, with what Eli said, with them getting to New York, I think near 2:00 in the morning, or 1:30, 12:30, whatever it was, near 1:00, and probably didn't get to the hotel till probably 2:00, right? So you got to kind of put everything in perspective and can't just put it on, okay, the guy blew the game. Yes, he did, but there's other things that go into it.
And the Marlins only scored 2 runs again today. At the end of the day, there was, again, the batted ball luck is just awful right now. I mean, it's just crazy. But they only scored 2 runs today. So, if that's a 3-1 ball game, that's different. If that's a 4-1 ball game, that's different. Obviously, if they score more, even more runs than that, it's completely different. So, the offense could have helped out. But yes, the problem is that, like you said, Alex, everything is going to be examined closer when it's the closer, right? So we're all going to forget about the fact that the bullpen was really great today, and we're just going to say, "Oh, this bullpen is terrible. It's the revamped bullpen. Give me a break." Blah blah blah. But the bullpen was really good today. But because Bass, gave up the home run and then that awful way to lose, everybody's going to look at it worse, and it's going to look like the sky is falling. But there were a lot of guys pitched today, and they were all pretty good. And Floro's been good, and other guys have been. Yeah. Detweiler's been a nice surprise so far. So the bullpen is kind of looking up all around. But one thing that Eli brought up that I thought was really good is that Donnie just said this in his press conference when he was asked, is Bass still the he wasn't necessarily asked, is Bass still the guy? It was really just, have you started to reconsider? And I think that's a fair way to ask the question. And I think it's fair of Donnie to say we haven't really had those discussions yet. It's 2 blown saves. Exactly. But he said everybody's gotten burned in the bullpen. And that's true. Yimmy lost us the first game. Floro's let up a home run. Curtis has let up a couple bombs. So, it's not just Bass right now. Like Alex said, everything is going to be, magnified for him because he's the closer and he's got the chance to close out the games and win it for you. But at the end of the day, it has been everybody so far. It's been a full bullpen problem. Today was a lot better, but yeah, you can't necessarily say there's one guy right now that you feel going into the 9th, 1-run lead is going to shut it down for you. I haven't seen that guy yet, and maybe somebody kind of takes the bull by the horns and says it's my job. So
Jorge Guzman, call him up. Let's see.
He's injured.
He's hurt.
I'm surprised he's not on the 60-day because I think they said he's throwing from 100 feet, but that was the last update we got. So he's still a while away. Anyways, hopefully he gets back because he is a fiery arm, and I think he could be a good bullpen piece. But anyways, I just wanted to put an exclamation point on 2 things that you said, Ethan. Number 1 is, if he comes back and, or if that pitch is called a strikeout and he gets it to the 10th and then the Marlins win, in extra innings, we probably aren't really talking about it as much. Yes, we probably would have mentioned, Anthony Bass was in there safe, but the Marlins won. So again, the amplification, right? Everything's going to get amplified. And the way that game ended, you can't really say that, yes, you can say that he blew the lead, but I don't think it's really fair to say that Anthony Bass lost the Marlins that baseball game because of that circumstance. Yes, he blew the lead. Yes, he allowed the home run that led up to that point. That is totally fair. But to say that Anthony Bass was the reason that the Marlins lost that baseball game is not fair. And just one more thing, because you mentioned the batted ball luck. I looked at it yesterday before this game, which I'm sure after this game it'll probably go down more because I don't think we had that many hits in this game. But I looked at it yesterday. I think the Marlins team BABIP was around like 258, and where we're at, 1-5, I think, right? The Chicago Cubs, just to put a stamp on how weird this game is. I think that's the theme of the day is weird baseball moments, because that moment to end that game was the strangest that I've ever seen to end a baseball game. I said that to you before, Eli. The Chicago Cubs team BABIP is like 125, and they have like 4 wins. Of course, they play in Wrigley Field. Yes, they hit a lot of home runs, but I just thought that was so interesting and how weird this game of baseball is, that, the balls that you put in play, the league average is 300. They're at 125 and they have 4 wins. So just totally weird. But yeah, the Marlins balls are going to start falling for them. We just got to wait and see for it to happen.
Well, what Ethan said before also, that I think a lot of people are feeling right now, is hoping that this is rock bottom for the team. But then you look ahead on the schedule, and who are they facing on Saturday?
That, right, man? Like, come on.
It's Jacob deGrom.
Yeah, well, there
Saturday,
you go.
and then on Sunday, who's the starter going to be? Probably Paul Campbell, or are they calling up someone from AAA to make that start on Sunday in order to push?
Who else do we have?
Said,
it's got to be Campbell. Yeah, it's got to be Campbell.
I mean, you could say Castano, but I would lean towards Campbell, yeah.
I would rather take Castano. He pitched well in spring training a little bit, and he pitched well last year as of late, or towards the end of the season.
Yeah,
he got his first win, right?
Well, he did. It's just about the logistics now.
Yeah,
where if you call him up, you got to send somebody down, and they don't have an obvious person to send down down right now, or to put on the injured list. So that's the question.
I guess the only option, Eli, here would be Lewis Brinson would be the guy that would go down because he has the option, right? But do you really want to waste that option to get Castano here for how many games? Maybe one or 2 games?
But you're in New York is the other thing, so it doesn't make any sense. If you're home, it would make more sense. But here I have. I saw somebody write in the chat that Bender, and this brings up a bigger point with the Marlins bullpen right now, which is we need guys with good stuff. We need guys with electric stuff. Look at what Miguel Castro did for the Mets today. He was pumping 100, and his at bat to Adam Duvall, I saw on Pitching Ninja, he made Duvall flinch in the box twice with his slider. I mean, where's that guy? Bender can pump 97, 98. Pop can pump 98. Where are these guys for the Marlins? This 98 with movement that we're looking for, because you've got who do we talk about? Pop can throw that high. Holloway was pumping it the other night. That's why I said that he looks like a guy that could pitch in high leverage situations, because he's got such good stuff. So I want to see those guys. I want Yimmy in high leverage situations, because his stuff looked great today. I thought he worked a quick 8-pitch inning, was up to 98, had 90 with the changeup, 91 with the slider. Like, where is that? That's what I'm looking for at the back end, and that's why I would really love to see Bender up, because, give it a shot at least. What do you have to lose? That you found the guy out of nowhere. Give him a shot. I would like to see more Zach Pop. His stuff is awesome. The Marlins bullpen was effective, and obviously you're not going to go to Pop in the 9th inning right now. But, if you move Pop up, then if you put Pop in the 6th or 7th, then that pushes Yimmy back an inning, because that's a guy you want to pitch every day. Now he's in the 9th. So I think there's an overall theory that we need to look at the bullpen right now, which is how it's constructed, where are the guys that are going to pump 98 with movement? And I think you got to start going towards that, because that's the new wave of relief pitching in baseball right now, is 98 with movement. So I want to see that from the Marlins. I want gas in the late innings, and we don't have that right now.
I'm going to mention a name, and I don't think that this is the answer to your question, Ethan. But I also don't know how well he did in spring training. But a guy like Max Meyer can pump 98.
Yeah, well, not yet.
Exactly, and I think they have plans to make him a starter. It's just the Marlins have a bunch of guys that throw that hard. It's just I think all of them are starters in the minor leagues.
Yeah. Well, with Meyer, like last year, right, in that 60-game sprint, you're going for the playoffs. Like, I think that would have been a time where you're like, we have this kid that can throw 98 with a wipeout slider. Let's give him a shot at the back end of the pen, But I don't think you're going to do that year. I think you want to give him a full AA season. But yeah, I see what you're saying. It's a guy that with electric stuff that's coming up, but he's not here yet. And I just want one of those guys at the back end. Like, I would love to see Holloway back up soon, because I thought his outing was really great.
For a second, you don't think of him as one of those guys because in his outing that was very impressive, he was almost entirely his breaking ball, and he wasn't actually throwing 98 all that much. Right. But he's exactly that type of guy where his velo has been great, and now he has really 2 dependable breaking balls that you can look at. That he's very tantalizing, and he's someone that he's been in this organization now for I think 7 years, ever since the draft. Like they've wanted to make him a starter, of course, but you're at a point where he's been around a while. It's time to see what he's got. And I mean, as soon as there is an opening on the staff, I imagine that he'll be up pretty soon. And whether or not he stays around consistently, I don't know. But yeah, he's certainly someone more so than Max Meyer. He's certainly someone that you've already put a lot of time into developing him, and it seems he's made some nice strides just based on that first outing we saw. So yeah, he's very high on the list of reinforcements. Him and Bender. And I mean, to get people familiar with why Bender didn't make the opening day roster, main reason for that is because they didn't have room on the 40-man for him. He's still not on the 40-man, but at the very moment, they do have an open spot, and I'll be curious to see what they do with that spot, or if they can make other openings depending on who they move to the 60-day injured list. So he might not be far away either. Again, this is not the biggest issue with the team. I think the biggest issue overall is in the big picture is probably this offense and the fact that we're now 4 games in a row and 5 out of 6 where they haven't done much at 6 out of 7 games this season where they haven't done much at all, and that's going to be the biggest question that they still need to figure out, because whereas there are those nice adjustments they can make at the bullpen potentially with these guys we mentioned, the offense is kind of locked in for the moment. You're not going to see any real personnel changes. You could play with the lineup a little bit. You could get Cooper in there more consistently. That's been a popular request, not understanding why Cooper isn't starting on a near daily basis. But there's only so many chess moves that Donnie can make on that side of the ball.
Yeah, just because to put a stamp on Holloway, I know we talked about this on your last show, Eli. But that outing, I said it before the last show that you did, that was like the weirdest outing. That was like for Jordan Holloway. And he said it post game that I was trying to work out my slider, trying to pull out a little bit more. Like that's it. The improvement that he made with that pitch is huge, because the last time we saw him pitch in minor league baseball, he only had like the mirror blueprint of that pitch. But what you didn't see is exactly what Ethan is saying with the velo, right? So he does have in his back pocket, he does have that wipeout fastball, 97, 98 mile an hour fastball that usually lives around 95, but he can pump it up. And, if he has the leash taken off of him, that, in the back of his mind, I still have to get through innings in terms of being a starter. If he could just go out there and go full bore and, have the reins taken off of him, I guess that's a guy that could turn into an awesome high leverage piece and or closer. I don't know about right away. He may have to get built up a little bit, get used to coming out of the pen. He did look really comfortable doing it in that outing. Really encouraged to see him go 2 innings. That's probably why he was using more slider and not the velo, because he knew he had to go multiple innings, right? So yeah, if he's in that 1 inning high leverage role, he could be really good. Danilo, Max Meyer, no chance. I'm not going to see him this year. Maybe next year. I know. We'll see what happens. I know. Yeah,
but
just so I put a stamp on that. But another thing we didn't mention, Eli, really quick. The Marlins are going to actually attend, and it's in Miami, so why not? They're going to attend Anibal Sanchez's workout, right? So maybe
did they confirm that for sure? I mean, I suspected that, but was that mentioned?
I think it was mentioned, yeah.
Yeah, Barry Jackson tweeted out that they were going to be at the.
Perfect.
Yeah, I mean, you could say, yeah, it's in Miami. Why not? Why wouldn't the Marlins go? I know they were at a couple of other workouts in the offseason that were down here, which, yes, that's fair. But why not? I mean, he's a veteran piece that the Marlins have kind of been looking for. Can turn in multiple innings. Maybe you could bring him in a late situation, maybe to set up or something. I don't think he has the wherewithal to be a starter anymore. I definitely don't think so. He's more of a bullpen guy. And then the other guy who the Marlins haven't been linked to, but I think that they should be, is another old friend, AJ Ramos. This guy still doesn't have a contract, and he's posting videos on Instagram and stuff of him blowing guys away. I mean, yes, I know those are probably amateur hitters, but still, why not, right?
I think they've got some in-house options in the pen that can kind of solve this.
They do for sure. Yeah. I was just saying in terms of guys that maybe you think could come in and help out. Those 2 guys for sure stick out to me. So
it really does kind of, like Eli said, it really does kind of right now come down to the offense. I mean, if we score more runs today, we're not in this situation probably. And it's even Cooper, it's not like Cooper, I haven't been like blown away with his at-bats, really. I've had very mixed feelings about them. He's had really good ones. He had a bad one today. I thought Duvall had a good at-bat today. So it's just like, try and find the pieces. But of course, the offense, Donnie doesn't have much he can change because, the DH situation, which you saw with, it cost us Jazz the DH situation today because we had to make a double switch so that Detweiler could get 2 innings. So the Marlins are on that side of the ball. This is kind of what you're going to be working with. And eventually, balls are going to start landing. Guys are going to start hitting better. Somebody's going to get hot. But yeah, I mean, for right now, it's like if you score 2 runs in a baseball game, you can't expect to win more than 50% of those games. You can't do it,
Absolutely.
And we've scored 1, 0, 1, or 2 in too many games this season. So at the end of the day, it's not gonna. You're not gonna win many ball games scoring 2 runs. So if the Marlins gonna muster it up a little more offense, then they don't put Bass in as tough of a situation. But as much as everybody wants to get, I feel like we've kind of cooled off about the hit by pitch thing gladly. But as much as everybody's going to be mad about it, and it's already getting talked about all over baseball social media, if Anthony Bass doesn't give up a ball that lands on Mars to Jeff McNeil, we're not in that situation. So nobody wants to hear it. Everybody wants to hear that the hit by pitch cost us the game, and maybe he gets out of that. And if he's not in that situation, if it's a 2-1 ball game, that's it. We're not in that situation. Maybe it goes to extras because a run score, whatever. But if he doesn't let up that home run, we don't have to worry about this hit by pitch. Maybe he gets out of it because he's not. He got. Did he get 1 out or did he get 2 outs? He got 1 out. Oh, yeah, that would have been the 2nd out. So, it just goes on. It's just, where do you go from here? Donnie said they're moving. All we can do now is move on. You can't do a protest. Protests never work anyway. I don't even know if MLB has protests anymore. They don't ever work.
They
anyway.
do. I think every year you get a couple of them, but I can't remember the last time one actually changed the results of a game. Yeah. And this one, we've already beat this on its head that even if that is a called strike, that doesn't guarantee they win the game. They'd still probably lose the game, either in that inning or in extra innings.
My question is, why does Major League Baseball have replay if we can't look back at that?
Well, of course, there are things that need to be reviewable, right? But the only thing they can review in that situation is if it hit him, and it did hit him. Mm-hmm. But the problem is, yes, it should be reviewable whether a guy leaned in, right? But okay, you look and it looks like he leaned in, but you can't be 100% sure. It's a judge. It technically is a judgment call. Some of them are more subjective than the one that we just saw today, but yes, it's technically a judgment call. So it's kind of like when they had reviews for pass interference in the NFL. It's like, what can you really do about that? It's such a subjective thing. So
the thing about it is, how many pitches do you see in Major League Baseball that are strikes, and that was a clear-cut strike, that are hit by pitch? That may be the only one I've ever seen, honestly.
Well, I think Donnie summed it up perfectly when he just said, hold on, let me find the quote. He tweeted, he said, if it's a strike, how can it be a hit by pitch? It's as simple as that.
Exactly right. Like how a pitch that's not swung at, because sometimes the guy gets hit, going after a pitch that he swung at. This time, the guy or half swings at. I've seen it happen before that the guy check swings and he gets hit on his finger and it's hit by pitch. Fair, right? But if the ball is in the strike zone and the guy doesn't swing the bat, how does he get a base? That makes no sense, right? So it's either a strike or it's a hit by pitch if the guy doesn't swing the bat. That should be looked at. I'm sure MLB will look at it. Knowing Manfred, I don't know if anything will actually happen, but I'm sure they'll try to look at it.
Is this baseball's? Is it a catch rule? What is a catch? What is a hit by pitch?
Yeah.
Today it was kind of,
Well, I'm going to give one more stat before we cut this off. And it's a very simple stat that, it speaks to a lot of what we've been discussing, is that for the season, the Marlins have been out-homered 10-2 by their opponents, giving up 10, only 2 for themselves. And both of those in the same game, if I remember correctly, both of those home runs that they hit by Cooper and by whoever else I'm forgetting. It doesn't matter. It's not a lot. You can count on 2 fingers the number of home runs the team has. And we just know how, like, it wasn't a big factor in this game. Only one of the 5 runs by both teams were scored on a homer. But just generally speaking, in Major League Baseball, so much of the offense is contingent on whether you hit it over the wall with some sort of consistency. You can't blame the ballpark if their opponents are having no trouble hitting them out. And unless they improve that balance, unless the pitchers avoid making those costly mistakes, and unless their hitters truly barrel up that ball to get it out, they're going to continue to struggle. They're not going to be this bad. Everybody knows that they're not this bad. A negative 11 run differential in this amount of games, you usually expect this team to be like 2-5, more so than 1-6. There's been some bad luck. There've been some close calls that didn't go their way. This team is better than the record.
Absolutely.
But the path for them to be even a moderately competitive team, there's a lot of work to do. From Alex Carver, from Ethan Badowski, from Daniel Rodriguez, and Danilo Santos. Eli Sussman here, coming off the 4th straight Marlins loss, 6 out of 7 to start the year. Fortunately, we go into an off day for the Marlins, an unusual off day because it's the day after the Mets opener on a Friday. Wishing everybody a good weekend. And thankfully for the Marlins players, they're in New York at a time when New York is starting to open up a little bit so they can get themselves a few drinks somewhere to forget about how this all played out and to get all rested up for this weekend where it's a tough matchup. DeGrom on Saturday, and then on Sunday, probably going with Paul Campbell for his first Major League start, where they are staring down the possibility of a 1-8 team. And that's something that I'll have to look it up. I don't know if they've ever started 1-8 before. Maybe once in franchise history. It's yikes.
This team is a lot better than 1-6. I think you made a great point about that, Eli. I just want to wrap up on that. Is that team's a lot better than 1-6. They've had some really, this is a brutal loss, but they've been in every game except when the Cardinals game got away from them yesterday. They've been in every game, and for this kind of team where you're not going to really be a contender. Maybe you can kind of push for the playoffs a little bit if you get, some things go your way. But when you're not really a contender and you're a team that's trying to win 75, 80 ball games, all you can ask for is that you're in every game. And so far, the Marlins have been in every game. And things are going to, this bounce went the other way, but eventually they're going to get a bounce that goes their way. Then they'll start getting some runs. Ball landed today, finally. They got a couple runs. Hopefully that gets them going a little bit. This team's, it's 7 games. Everybody just, it's a brutal loss. It's a brutal loss. And like I said, hopefully this is rock bottom. Hopefully it doesn't get any worse. Knowing the Marlins, it could. But, 1-6, it's 7 games. We've been in every game so far. So, come back on Saturday. And, it's a tough challenge, but come back on Saturday and try and flip it around. Yeah, try and flip the M.
Yep. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to Fish Stripes Live. We're doing a bunch of these throughout the regular season with all these faces and plenty more on our staff, and we'll bring in more extra guests as well. More reaction coming on fishstripes.com. Maybe they should try wearing the blue uniforms again. Maybe you fully get out of this.
Yes, every day, every game.
Yeah, wear blue, never lose. Wear black, and you usually lose all the time. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll regroup this weekend and try to bounce out of this. All right, go Fish.
All right, fellas, brutal, but
I need to get now. Yep. Oh boy, did my computer freeze again?